Hello and welcome everyone to the launch of the Sustainable Business Alliance and our Business Towards Sustainability programme. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us here today. Just to let you all know to begin with, we are going to be recording this webinar, just so you are aware. We have a fantastic programme, as you can see on the screen, with some amazing speakers who are going to hopefully make the case for why it's increasingly important for businesses to accelerate their journeys towards sustainability. And we're also going to be telling you how the Sustainable Business Alliance can help you to do exactly that. But we don't have much time, so we're going to launch straight into it and go immediately to our first speaker today. And we're extremely lucky and very grateful to be joined by the legendary Mike Berners-Lee. Mike is the founder and director of Small World Consulting. He's the author of acclaimed books, including There Is No Planet B, How Bad Are Bananas, and How Bad Are Bananas, The Carbon Footprint of Everything. He's also a professor at Lancaster University, where his research includes supply chain, carbon modelling and sustainable food systems. And we are very honoured to have Mike joining us here today to talk about why we need to act. So Mike, thank you very much for joining us. We're really grateful to you, and the floor is yours.
Well, thanks very much, Simon, and thanks everyone for joining today. I know it's quite a sort of distracting day with other news and stuff. I'll just share the screen and oops, excuse me. I've just started on the wrong slide. Okay, yeah. So just very quickly about me. So I've written these books, professor at Lancaster, and I work with all kinds of companies through my business at Small World Consulting, just trying to help organisations make an appropriate response to what I would describe as a polycrisis that we're in at the moment. So, why do we need to act now, and what is this polycrisis all about, and where's it come from? The easiest way I know of starting to talk about it is to just have a look at this graph of global energy use going up and up and up so steeply there, and we use all that energy for wonderful things. Like, including being able to have this call right now. But it's also true to say that as humanity has increased its energy supply, so we have also been increasing the influence that we have on the planet that we're living on. And of course, with rising technology to go with it as well, that's also increased our influence. And we exert that influence through a mixture of accident and design. And as we've become more powerful, the balance of power between us and the planet we're on has changed, and we've reached a new era now. Some people have a big word for it and just call it the Anthropocene, and I use that word very simply just to describe a change in context that we're in. We used to be able to treat the world as if it was a robust playground and we were just a little species running around on it, and it could do we could do what we liked and it would put itself back together again, broadly speaking. And now that's completely changed, and we're living in a very fragile world, and we haven't yet learned how to go about living well in that world. And what we're finding is that because we haven't yet learn to be more careful than ever. The planet that we're on is falling apart at high speed, actually at an increasing speed. Um, through our lack of ability to live in an Anthropocene fit way. Um, just to just to highlight how far we are from getting on top of the situation. We know we've had 28 climate COPs, these enormous international conferences to try and deal with the crystal clear science that says that climate change is enormously important thing for humanity to respond to. So we've had these 28 COPs. The last one of them had a massive 100,000 people nearly turning up at it. And let's have a look at how effective they've managed to be. And I'm showing this to be depressing. I'm showing this just to try and sharpen the focus on how much we need to raise our game. So there's a graph of carbon emissions from fossil fuel use, and I've put a marker in there to show the first one of those COPs. And if you look at that rising curve, that rising line, it's pretty well like a straight line with a few dents in it. And what you can't see is any evidence at all that any of those COPs have done anything whatsoever to dent that rising line. And just to emphasize, the height of that line represents the speed at which we're making the climate worse, broadly speaking. So in other words, we're not just not dealing with the climate crisis yet, we are actually accelerating into it. We're accelerating into it in a way that is pretty well identical to how we might have predicted we might be accelerating if we'd never noticed that climate change was a thing. So that doesn't mean to say we can't get on top of this, but it does mean we need to change and raise our game a lot. Just very quickly on the symptoms, we know that we're getting all kinds of symptoms. And if I had more time, I'd show graph after graph of us breaking records by a massive amount. Average sea temperatures last year, a massive 0.5 degree higher than ever before. Antarctic sea ice last year, an enormous 11% less than ever before, since recent records anyway. And that's not just breaking records by a little bit, that's absolutely annihilating records in a way that we should be really very worried about. And one of the things that the scientific community is only just really rolling its sleeves up on to look at in earnest is the extent to which we might be triggering a cascade of tipping points. In other words, some of these symptoms might, the extent to which these symptoms of climate change bring about yet more climate change in a way that produces positive feedback loops that we may or may not be able to deal with, even if we stop burning all fossil fuel. The top picture there, by the way, those puddles are puddles, craters left by methane melting as it explodes out of the permafrost. And of course, methane, a very powerful greenhouse gas that causes more climate change. As the picture at the bottom, the melting ice, well, as the ice melts, the world becomes less reflective and absorbs more of the world's heat. And then the forest fires, of course, when forests burn, that releases carbon dioxide, which causes more global warming, as we know. So I'm not saying that we have crossed reached a cascade of tipping points, but I am saying that we could have done. And we might be very, very close to such a point, which would be incredibly painful for humanity. Just to kind of emphasize the seriousness one bit more, the final part of uncertainty in the equation is that we just don't know how resilient global society is to these kind of climate shocks. But we do know that our food system is getting wobblier globally, and we do know how easily wars can break out and civil strife, and we also know that there's a kind of health and mental illness phenomenon that's certainly starting to play out in some countries, including here, and maybe that's to do with a kind of mismatch between how we know we need to be living and how we are living. So we're in this kind of polycrisis. We talk about climate a lot, but actually it's all these things together. The physical dimensions of it are climate, energy, population, food, biodiversity. It's just as important as climate, pollution, disease threats. All these things coming together need to be dealt with simultaneously. The good news is that from a technical perspective, that's entirely possible. So what would it take for us to be dealing with these technically solvable challenges? And that's really where maybe it's like an onion. We have to unpeel the layers of an onion to get one layer deeper and find, it takes us to radically different approach to this through our politics. We'll touch on that in a second. Our media needs to tell us the truth on this far more clearly. This agenda affects everything that every business says, thinks, or does. We almost certainly need to deal with inequality within and between countries, changes to our approaches to economics, because our economic framework was honed pre-Anthropocene, and yet the evidence for a need to change our economic framework is so clear cut, and yet there's barely a mainstream politician anywhere that's prepared to take that on seriously. Changes to our relationship with technology, and the way that we do education and the way that we bring our kids up to be able to think, and the values that they need to have, which takes me on to kind of maybe the center of this, which is that the core thinking and values that we actually need to have now if we're going to thrive in the Anthropocene. This is an urgent evolution in the ways that humans think and the values that we have if we are going to continue to be able to thrive. I'm just going to look very quickly at 3 core values that we have to have now because we can't live without them. One is we need to learn to respect all people. And I'm reluctant to be sort of party political about this, but well, let's just say that our politicians need to be encouraging us to respect all people, whoever they are, whatever their backgrounds, whatever country they come from, whether they're rich or poor, whatever their skin color. We need to, of course, learn to respect the environment, and we need to respect truth much, much more carefully, probably than we've ever needed to before, and certainly more carefully than the outgoing government has been doing. So, when it's all so global, what can any of us do in our businesses? Well, we need to ask the question. The way to frame it up is to ask, how can my business help to create the conditions under which humanity can undergo the systemic changes that it so urgently needs? So what does sustainability in business mean now? It's a much deeper question than just, what's our environmental impact? What's our carbon footprint? Are we net zero? It's what is everything that we say and do? How do we encourage our customers to think? Are our products and services that the sustainable world fundamentally needs? Are we encouraging people to consume more sustainably, or are we encouraging people to overconsume? It's all kinds of deeper and challenging questions like that we need to ask. And probably for me, the killer question for any business is to ask, if the world started making a serious transition to sustainability, would that be an overall opportunity or threat to this business? And if the answer is that it's a threat, then the urgent priority, more important than anything to do with your carbon footprint or whatever, is to change the business model until you can say that an economic transition towards sustainability would be an opportunity for this business. Otherwise, you'll always be deeply conflicted. Okay. This slide is out of date the minute it always needs updating quickly, but just to emphasize, with the incoming government that we've got, what is absolutely critical is that we radically transform the standards of integrity in public life, in our politics, and in our media. So I urge everybody here to do their very best to make sure that the incoming government understands what we mean by integrity, understands how much it matters, understands how well we'll reward it if we see it, and how much we'll punish it if we don't see it. And the same with the media. Can I ask everybody to be just very, very careful to ask, what sources they're choosing, how do they know whether or not they can trust it? Has it got a track record of honoring the truth as carefully as possible? Who funds it? Who owns it? How's it motivated? And if you're not confident with your sources, then can I please urge you to switch your sources? Don't read its advertising, don't read its content, except with extreme caution, and don't give money to bad sources of media, because it's probably one of the key leverage things that any of us can do if we want to get on top of the climate and wider ecological emergency that we're in. Okay, so this business, media, uh, uh, and business, the public, and government have this kind of three-way interaction, and everyone's asking, well, who should be leading on this? But increasingly, it's clear that business has an absolutely pivotal role. It's no good waiting for government. Government, even the incoming government, they need to have pressure from the public and from businesses. I'll skip over this slide. So the message is, you have a huge impact on societal and individual behavior, and a biggest thing you can do is help the world to wake up, because that's what we so need to do. Final slide. I just want to frame this up as we are in a race between tipping points. Will the climate tip against us first, or will we achieve the big social wake up? And that comes from all sorts of directions, from people taking to the streets in the right ways to people campaigning. MP Watch has done a great job this election of helping to oust some of the worst climate deniers from politics. But also some businesses, and I just put a few examples up there from different industries that I think are starting to really do the right thing and push the dial from a business perspective. And it's, apologies to all the fantastic businesses that I've missed out, but we need those businesses to be in a majority, not a minority. Okay, that's me. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Mike. That was really thought-provoking, and some great ideas in terms of what business can do, particularly sort of looking at systematic change. How can we enable that? Because we do sort of quite often sort of think about, how do we reduce our carbon footprints? How do we do some of these smaller incremental things? But how do we actually influence systematic change? I think is something which I think is perhaps a different perspective which we've not thought about before. So thank you for that. I know, Mike, that you need to go, but are you okay to stay for one or two questions?
Yeah, I'm okay to stay for. I'm okay to stay for a few questions, and just to emphasize that I think that's absolutely right. That is really critical. I'd want everyone on this call to understand that the sustainability agenda is a lot more than just a few sticking plasters on businesses as usual, and it's a lot more than a sort of simplistic takes like, "Oh, we're going to be net zero." It really is everything that your business says, thinks, and does.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you very much, Mike. So I'm going to open the floor to see if there are any questions. If you do have a question, please raise your hand. I can unmute you and put you on camera, or if you want to put any questions in the chat, please do. So I'll just pause there to sort of see if there are any hands that are going up, and I already see a hand going up from Tom. Let me just allow your mic and camera. Tom, go ahead. Oh, hang on a minute. Tom, are you able to speak?
There we go. I've unmuted myself. There we go. Mike, thank you very much. That was awesome. I think the greatest sentence you said was, "Is it a threat to your business?" That's a great hygiene factor for anyone to think about. So I think that's fantastic. The challenge we all face, I think pretty much everyone on this call is probably doing some great stuff. We've got a moral compass in our business, which is about doing the right thing, and it's a lens that we put, all decisions through. It's not translating to the consumer as quickly as we'd all like, though. The issue, we're in a cost of living crisis, so everyone's buying the cheapest again. That's the challenge. I think we can get loads of businesses to migrate, but what we don't want to do is sometimes it feels like you're falling on a green sword of authenticity and doing the right thing, because inevitably it costs more money to do that. But the realization is we all need to make this step change. So it's not just businesses. I suppose the more people talking about it, the better. That stakeholder engagement piece that you're talking about is super important. It's ramming this message home. I don't really know what my question is. I suppose it's how do we convince the consumer that this is the right thing to do? Because I do think there's a lot of, especially young businesses in this country, anyone I'm talking to that's launching now is definitely putting this at the center of the mission of the business, but it's getting the consumer to really buy into this is the bit we need to do.
Yeah, okay, and it's a really good question, and I don't think it's always simple, but I do think it's you know, a lot of it is in the messaging you send out, not just the explicit words that you write, but just as, you know, the flavor of everything that you do sends out a message to the consumer. The way that you're encouraging them and inviting them to live, you know, all of that helps. And you know, it's a difficult backdrop in a way, because our media is not serving us properly. If you turn on BBC in the morning, you know, you will hear odd mentions of climate change, but you to use their phrase for it, but you won't, the overwhelming flavor that you'll pick up is that all this is business as usual, really, and what it means for our daily lives is carry on as we did before, and that's absolutely not right. So we need to be helping to create a different narrative. And there are, you know, in lots of places in the economy, there are places where actually there is a confluence between saving money and increasing margins and doing the more sustainable thing. And they're not everywhere, but there are some places where that is clear cut. The big one that springs to my mind is around hospitality, because the science is saying really clearly reduce the amount of meat and dairy in the diet, and it's so much more efficient to grow plant-based nutrition than it is to have so much meat and dairy. You don't have to be vegetarian, by the way, but it's all about proportions. That somewhere there's an opportunity either to reduce costs or to increase margins or something. And the trick is to show the consumer that those kinds of meals are normal, they're at least as exciting as meat-based. They're more healthy, they can be more affordable, they're more attractive, they're more exciting, and that's the challenge. So a lot of this is about serving it up as a way that's more exciting. But you're right, younger consumers particularly are increasingly, you know, if you want to be excited, if you want to be an exciting brand, then you need to show that you get it about what the world needs.
Agree.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the question, Tom, and thank you, Mike. Are you okay to take another question?
Yeah.
Mike? We've got a question from James McGregor. James, you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to ask your question. James, are you there? Well, we might have to jump to Camilla Sherwin. Just going to allow you to, unmute yourself, Camilla. Are you able to come in?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. So I work on a program called Investors in the Environment, which is a green accreditation program, and we do work with businesses, and we're trying to encourage them to, you know, cut their carbon, look at things, as I think it was Tom just saying, look at things through a sustainability lens. But they sometimes get overwhelmed by the, I suppose, analysis in a way that they need to do. So one example is that an organisation was about to make a change to the changing their fleet to being electric, and one of their board members said, but hang on, what about the lithium, and what about the, you know, mining and the impact of this and that? And Mike, I know this is your area where you analyze everything to the minutiae, but do you ever kind of have a what's your advice for people to sort of, I don't know, take the leap and do what feels like the right thing without trying to go too far right down into the minutiae of the life cycle analysis?
That's a very, very good question. So actually, you say we always analyze things to minutiae. Actually, what we do, is we try and analyze things to the point at which the business knows enough about how it should be managing the issues. So sometimes, quite often, that involves going down into, big detail. So if we're working with BT on what's its carbon footprint, it's a very big organization and it deserves a pretty heavyweight analysis of it, and that's entirely appropriate. But I'll give another example, which is that I've been talking to a big burger chain recently, and they are saying, well, I think where we should start is we should have a really careful look at our carbon footprint. And I'm like, no, that's not where you should start, because I can tell you right now what your priorities are in terms of sustainability, right? It's to put something really attractive on your menu that is a plant-based burger, and it's to grow the profile of that, and it's to start showing your customers that they're and it's to make that product look normal, exciting, make it look like the most natural thing to choose out of everything on the menu. Right now, I can say that without doing any further analysis. And for that, all you need is a broad perspective. So, the example of the things like the car that you mentioned, I mean, I don't want to over promote my own book, but, How Bad Are Bananas, for example, talks through issues around cars and what's the carbon footprint of petrol versus electric, and where's the, talks through all that stuff in a way which is not numerically perfect, but it's broad brush enough for you to understand the basic issues, which are, will tell you that when you're changing your cars, you should get electric, but you shouldn't necessarily throw your petrol cars onto the scrap heap before they've had their day. And that will give you a sort of broad take on it, which is sensible enough. So I think that would be what my encouragement for smaller businesses especially is: just try and get yourself a robust, broad understanding that's good enough to let you take action, and don't get too bogged down too quickly in the detailed analysis.
Thank you. I think my advice was about right to them then, I'm pleased
Good,
to say.
well
But sometimes it kind of too much knowledge can act as a or the desire for too much knowledge can lead to inertia, which is not what we want.
Actually, it's a form of putting things off. It's a bit like me if I'm putting off a job. If you find me tidying the house and cleaning the house, then you know that I'm putting off something I don't feel like getting around to. And it's the same for a business. Oh, well, why don't we spend 6 months having a look at what our carbon footprint is, and then that puts off for 6 months actually having to do anything.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you once again, Mike, and thank you for the questions. It's been a great talk, and I hope everyone sort of feels inspired and feels that they're able to make a difference. So really grateful to you, Mike. I know you've got to go, but obviously you're welcome.
I've got to go, but
like.
Thank you for having me, and good luck with your network. And it's great what you're doing, and I hope wish you every success in building momentum together. Okay.
Thanks, bye. Mike. That's great. That's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Great. Well, that was. Hope you all agree. Some inspiring stuff from Mike. I'm just going to share my screen again as we're going to go to the next speaker now. If there are any questions or not able to answer questions, we will come back, hopefully via email. So please keep them coming, and if we're not able to answer them all today, as I said, we'll come back to you. I'd like to now introduce my next speaker, Adrian Price, who's going to talk about the business case for sustainability. Adrian, let me just make my page big. Adrian is an associate professor in strategy and society and has been associated with sustainability since the 1990s. He's a trained B leader and a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability. He's also chair of the Institute of Directors National Sustainability Group and is the founder and chair of B Partners Limited. Adrian, thank you very much for joining us today. So over to you, please. Tell us, what's the business case?
Well, thank you very much, Simon, and good afternoon, everybody. And nice to see so many of you and some well-known and faces too, dear friends. Do I take control? Can I take control of the slides here by pressing the take control? Yes, I think I can. There we go. Request. And hopefully, where's the button that I move the slides along?
I've given you control. You have the power.
Okay. And how do I do that? Just by pressing my...
Should be. If you just click in the screen, it should take you to the next slide. If not, I can do it for you.
Okay, well, good. So, sustainability, the business case. Well, firstly, thanks, of course, to Mike for that introduction. And I know that the little video set the scene there, which very much sets the scene for the planet. Mike also talked about individual responsibility, the importance of a much improved civic life that we hopefully have turned a corner now and with a new dawn, and of course the responsibility of business. So if I do try clicking, wonder what happens.
Hey,
there we oh no, you've gone too far.
There you go.
So this is meant to be an image of a tsunami, of course, and I think there's tsunamis happening around the world as a result of climate change. And to my mind, having studied this, as Simon said, been involved or thinking about it since the late 1990s when I worked in the travel and tourism industry shortly after the Rio Earth Summit, and the last 6, 7, 8 years taking an even closer look, really, to bring myself up to speed, and the privilege of being able to do that at the university, is that there's a tsunami coming to hit business in terms of the compulsion or the need to take some action here. And that we're preaching to the converted today, of course, because a lot of the people here, somebody said, we're all doing some great stuff, but this is something that is necessary. We all have to engage with the public sector, the private sector, the third charity sector, as well, of course, as the academic sector, and we're in it together. And this people, planet, profit, I'd add to that place. People, planet, profit, and place is very important, because I think this sense of, it's gone out of fashion, localism, but actually localism and sustainability are all linked. And to my mind, as an academic that teaches strategy, innovation too. My perspective is perhaps more on the governance and the social side, and an awful lot has been said about the environmental side. But let's just kind of, if you can move to the next slide for me, Simon, please. Mike's referred, if you can keep pressing the button, referred to the reasons why not. Well, I'm too busy. I've got a crisis to manage. It's all too costly in terms of management time or indeed money. I don't understand it. Until today, of course, a lack of certain skills and tools in many businesses. And I have to say some internal resistance as well. And that internal resistance, my experience is talking to boards. A lot of businesses have 1 or 2 directors, but if you've got a board of directors, 6, 7, 8, there's one who champions it. Well, we've got a CSR champion on the board. Well, hooray, it's not enough. You've got to get all the directors and the CEO committed and get everyone, if you will, to the starting line to understand how existential this particular issue is, but also, and I remember I teach strategy, I'm pro-business. Also, we've got to get the message out there that it's good for business. It's good for your business, but it might be in the long term as against in the short term, that maximization of short-term profits. So we understand there's a cost in the short run, but is the long run good enough? Well, what are the sort of things that we might want to think about? So next slide, Simon, for me, please. And again, it's got a little bit of animation coming in. What's not to like about growth? What's not to like about innovation? Risk management. My goodness me, the world is changing faster and faster. We're having disruptive black swan events. We're having wars. We're having pandemics, etc. There's a lot of risk out there, and I think increasingly boards have to think about all these risks, and some of them come from sustainability areas. But of course, my overall point is long-term success. But you've got to kind of believe that. There's a bit of a leap of faith here. So if we move to the next slide, thank you. Yes, isn't it the right thing to do? What's not to like, and actually it is the right thing to do. So let's slow down. Whoa, go back. Don't reveal all my cards at once. So thank you. Regulatory compliance. Now, I've been the privilege of studying this with colleagues in the last few years. This is a tsunami. It is such a fast-moving space. Even paid to study and think about these things, it's hard to keep up with the regulation. So if you're not doing it now as a voluntary, believe you me, within 3 to 5 years, you'll have to be doing it. So why not make that start now? Next one, Simon, please. Consumer preference. Well, Tom's asked the question about consumer preference. I think, I worked in the food sector for a few years with Spanish foods. And what my understanding was there, the people that buy in delis might be 20-25% of the population care about where the chicken comes from. Did it go to school or whatever. That, though, 20-25%, that segment of the audience, I think, is growing fast. Even though 75%, 70%, we've still got to convince, or we've got to get the pricing structure. But the direction of travel is clear, and the next generation are going to drive that too. Next one, Simon, please. Supplier demands, pre-approval. Now, this is, I think, beginning to where the rubber hits the road, right? If we're looking to get contracts from bigger companies or from the public sector, you, I'm sure, are already seeing, and I know we're preaching to the converted, you're seeing the supplier demands, the pre-approval. Are you doing this stuff? Prove to me what you're doing about it. And of course, at the moment, it's perhaps a bit random, or people are putting lots of different things down. We need to have the framework where there's almost a common barometer that we can refer to. EcoVadis perhaps is one. Next bullet for me, please, Simon. Thank you. Operational efficiency. This tends to, if you get this right, you're not talking just in your sort of subject area or your functional or your divisional area. This thing is across the board, across all the divisions, and it starts to get different conversations going, as well as, of course, managing, well, let's just take water, waste, and energy. They are costs in your P&L account. So why wouldn't you be managing those things, of course? So operational efficiency there to be gained. Next bullet. Innovation and competitiveness. I think the world is changing. We have to be anticipating the future increasingly. We're not doing strategy by looking backwards in the rearview mirror. We're looking at those drivers, forces, and winds of change. Now, I understand a lot of businesses don't necessarily have the bandwidth or the time. They're up against the coalface. They're firefighting, crisis management. But surely somebody in the organization should be looking above the parapets and saying, there's opportunity spaces over here. There are risks to be mitigated over there, and they can drive a healthier, more innovative business if you get the culture right. Next bullet point takes us into employee recruitment and retention. I think the alignment of values of your employees with perhaps the concerns of the local society in which you're operating, there are plenty of evidence to show that this enhances employee recruitment, retention, productivity, and that value alignment, that I work for a company that cares. I work for a company that worries about knife crime and my kids going to school and the risk of knife crime in my county. So that concept of place is very important to me, that we should think about these issues right down to the community in which we operate, from which we recruit, and into which we sell, because our employees are also local citizens, of course. Next. Stakeholder relations. Well, they're taking that, extending it to all of our stakeholders, our market stakeholders, customers, suppliers, competitors we probably already have a dialogue with, albeit through a trade body, but all those wider stakeholders. Mrs. Smith outside the factory who's washing, we make it dirty every Monday when she puts the washing out. We have to engage with our stakeholders. And I can tell you that I did some research for Grant Thornton 4 or 5 years ago, and out of the top 100 companies in the county at that time, we've just updated the research, so I won't tell you what the new research says. But at that time, in 2019, none of the top 100 companies in the county were making any feature in their balance sheet or their annual report and accounts about stakeholder engagement. 0% was what we found. Doesn't mean they weren't doing it, but they weren't making a feature of it or putting it into their public statements. That probably has changed, but we'll see by how much. Next bullet. Brand reputation. Well, what's not to like? Again, especially if you're a consumer-facing brand, you can enhance your brand, that halo effect. Many companies don't want to stand on a pedestal to be shot down. Quaker companies like Scott Barter, we just do good quietly in the background. But believe you me, in 3 to 5 years, you will be obliged to report on your positive impacts and separately your negative impacts. So embrace it and make it a corporate asset. Brand goodwill is a corporate asset in your balance sheet. Next bullet. Investor pressure. And the next one, Simon, you can do 2 at the same time here. Access to capital. We're already seeing differential loan rates as well as investors I mean, I've had an investment company in Birmingham contact me because they want to now put all of their investments through a sustainability lens, without a doubt. But there'll be differential borrowing rates, as well as whether investors will invest in your business or not. You know, that back to number 3, supply demand. Same with suppliers of capital and money. Next point, resilience and adaptability. I think this word resilience has come into fashion since the pandemic, and we really need to take into account that and this agility and adaptability. And interestingly, and this is a whole other session on its own, the ISO standards, if you look carefully at them, they are all building around 2 things. They're building a hierarchy around, you know, ISO 9000, 14000, 44000, 20. They're building them all around resilience and sustainability. It's going hand in hand. And that was from the head of sustainability at the ISO just a couple of years ago. Really quite fascinating. And their tools are how we can help operationalize, of course, the issues we're talking about. And the last bullet point on this is long-term value creation. I think this is what we've got to get the belief in. It won't produce short-term results this quarter, perhaps not this year. But in the long run, I'm convinced the evidence, 200 studies, 96% of 200 studies shows that long-term value can be enhanced for shareholders as well as the planet and the local people and our stakeholders. So my message, and I know, again, preaching to the converted, we have to collectively go out as part of this initiative and others to make sure businesses are not finding themselves on the wrong side of history. They do see this that we're talking about as a business opportunity. And what is wonderful, if we relate to the UN SDG number 17 partnerships, you know, congratulations to Simon, delighted and proud to be part of this Sustainable Business Alliance, because yes, we are in this together. We have to work and collaborate. The public, private, academic and third sectors have to work more together. Ebenezer and the university put a stake in the ground, tremendous work around the Sustainability Summit. So, you know, we want to become a hotbed of activism in this space, another very successful, hopefully made in Northamptonshire project and initiative. So, good, you know, thank you, Simon. Wish the project every success. And I hope I've given a very quick overview there of the reasons, and there are many reasons that we can all collectively communicate to all the doubting Thomases out there. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian. I think, you know, some really, you know, great stuff there. I think clearly a lot of opportunities out there, a lot of risks out there. And we've all heard about the imperative of why we need to act from Mike as well. So I think, you know, we're building a good case. But let's hear from a business that's already on that journey. And so I'd like to now welcome Jane Winter from Medigold Health. And as head of ESG for Medigold Health, Jane leads on the integration of sustainability across the organisation, championing the importance of engagement and collaboration. She believes a business-wide commitment to sustainability will foster long-term success while prioritising the well-being of individuals, communities and our planet. Jane, it's very good of you to join us here today. Please, over to you. We'd love to hear a bit more about Medigold Health and your journey towards sustainability.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Hello, everybody. Thank you for asking me to say a few words. I will keep them brief. I can see how the time's going, but it would be great to just introduce you briefly to Medigold Health. We are UK-wide. We were founded 26 years ago with just four members of staff by Dr. Mike Goldsmith. And in the last 18 months, we have increased to around 1,100 members of our team. And we're proud to be one of the UK's leading occupational health and wellbeing service providers. Our head office is based in Northampton, which is why one of the reasons why we have close links with the university and with Adrian, Simon and Ebenezer and Alexina as well. But we have offices and clinics across the UK. We are still a majority owned family business, and we have support from our investors, the BGF. As I said, in the last 2 years, we have bought our own and acquired our own drug and alcohol testing, specialist matrix diagnostics, and also we've acquired HML. So doubling in size actually gives us the opportunity. With 1,100 staff, we can spread the good stuff that we're doing on our ESG practices with more people who want to learn, who want to know what we're doing, and it's important for them to see the actions that we're taking to make sure that we are the best business that we can be. If you could move on, Simon, please, to our next slide. Thank you. This is our genetic code. These are our values, and these resonate through everything that we do. The decisions that we take, how we make our decisions, and what we do to be the best service provider we can be to our customers and also for our staff as well. And all of our communications throughout our business are linked to our genetic code. These were designed also through consultation with our staff to make sure that they achieve our overarching ambition and vision and mission to keep people in work safe and well. So where are we on our ESG journey? If you could move on, Simon, thank you. So very briefly, since I joined Medigold Health in 2021, my initial conversations were with Adrian at the university, who we've just heard from, and it was focused on the B Corp movement and the framework that the B Corp could provide us as a business to be better in all areas of environment, people, communities, and what actions can we take. We have set our initial strategy based on the B Corp framework, and it is very rigorous, it's very challenging, and we're not there yet, and we still have ambitions to be a B Corp certification. However, what we're looking to do now is to reset, review, and look at what the priorities are for us as a business to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our stakeholders. So what have we done so far and what have we achieved? Well, we've achieved 2 annual ESG reports. They're on our website. We started looking at our calculations, and we have used SBA, and we were guinea pigs, I think, about a year ago, with the support that we got from Simon to calculate our Scope 1, Scope 2 and part Scope 3 emissions. We've set up a corporate-wide ESG steering committee because we believe that responsibility, whilst I coordinate, I facilitate, but it's about sharing responsibility for all of our ESG actions across the whole of our business. And we're gaining more insights, more understanding, with lots of people across the business taking part in our programme. We've also got 2 working groups currently looking at waste and travel. They're our biggest challenges that we've got to see how we can reduce our carbon emissions and make our business better. We've also launched a community impact programme, and what we wanted to do with that was to get everybody on our team involved in taking action and being part of what they do, whether it's at work, whether it's within their local community, and we've been supporting and making grants available for people who are involved in volunteering and fundraising in their local areas. And we're also currently in the process of seeking nominations because we want to support local food banks within our communities as well. So measuring our social impact is also key for us, and we are working with the University of Northampton again to learn how we can understand this and be better with how we spend our time, how we use our resources. We've also been required by many of our customers to achieve various standards. We've achieved 14001, ISO 14001 several years ago now. We're maintaining the requirements there, and we've also recently completed our assessments for EcoVadis and the CGP as well, which are again rigorous and challenging and are being required more and more. And it is really important for us to work with our customers, with our suppliers, with our investors, to show that we are doing everything we can to enhance our ESG actions. We've also joined the Northampton Sustainability Accord and welcome the opportunity working with Ebenezer and his colleagues in our local area as well. And I know Ebenezer is going to say a few words shortly after me. So we are an organisation that has grown considerably, and we will undoubtedly continue to grow. So our ESG actions have to make sure that we are learning and understanding with the constant changes that are happening. Using the SBA tools that we've done so far, and also understanding the focus and the reason behind Simon and his team setting up the SBA is really important to us. It's really accessible. You know, the carbon calculator has been invaluable to us, and we have been working recently with Simon to set up what do we need as an organisation to make our actions better in all aspects of our ESG strategy. And we're going to be able to review that strategy to take us up to 2030 over the next few months with the help of Simon and the team. And for that, we're really grateful. It's a very accessible suite of resources. Some of it's free, some of which you pay for, but it is very focused on helping you and your business being the best you can be. We are also looking to work with Simon to enhance our stakeholder engagement. We want to find out in greater detail about how, you know, what our stakeholders, what's important for them, for us to be better. And that's a piece of work that we're really looking forward to receiving the results of, and that will feed into our ESG strategy over the next few months. I think for us, having a sustainable and responsible business ecosystem is really important. We need, as Mike said, to raise our game. We need to make sure that we are learning constantly, and we need to make sure that we're demonstrating that we're putting those thoughts and those plans into actual action, and we're also measuring the impact that we're having as well, so that we are accountable. And we're really excited to move forward with SBA and to be part of the future and what is happening with Simon and his colleagues. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you so much, Jane. Really great to hear of the progress that you've been making, and we're very much looking forward to working with you over the coming months. So, really grateful to you for speaking. Now, I think in the last part of today's launch, we want to give you a bit of an introduction into what SBA is and the Business Towards Sustainability program. So we'll go through this quite quickly. Obviously, the time is short. Now, we heard from Mike earlier about why it's vital that we need to act, and obviously we heard from Adrian and Jane as to making the business case for it. I think we all genuinely want to do the right thing, but I think as we get a sense, there's just so much noise out there, or what Adrian often calls the alphabet soup of ESG. There's so much regulation, there's so much stakeholder expectations, requirements, standards, frameworks, different perspectives on what is and isn't sustainable. And for many, it can be very confusing, you know. So having come to realize that we need to act, we can perhaps sometimes be forgiven for thinking that it's maybe more hassle and maybe more cost than it's worth, but it shouldn't be. And that's where SBA comes in, because we want to help businesses to clearly see the way ahead, to cut through all the noise and follow a plan that not only makes sense, but can ultimately benefit and not burden your business. So how can SBA help you? Well, the first thing you can do is take our quick and easy ESG assessment to get an idea of how you're doing and where you might need help. It should only take 5 minutes, and it's free to download from the website. And also join the Alliance. Again, that's completely free. And by joining SBA, you'll get access to our free tools and templates, as well as the opportunity to join exclusive talks, webinars, and networking events. And as we build our community, you'll be able to share in the skills, knowledge, and experience of all our members to help you improve your ESG rating, as well as access tools and support from SBA and our members. We also offer a structured program to help you improve your ESG rating called the Business Towards Sustainability program. It provides support, tools, and training to help you prioritize, set clear targets, build realistic and compelling action plans, and measure and report on your progress. So, for example, and Jane alluded to it earlier, we provide a full materiality assessment for your business, helping you to prioritize sustainability topics based on the topics that are most important to your stakeholders and what topics have the greatest impact on your business. The basic tool is free and can be downloaded from our website, but we can also help you to conduct stakeholder surveys and conduct a risk and opportunities assessment to help you calculate the scores that go into your matrix so you can prioritize effectively. And we can also facilitate bespoke workshops with your business to help you develop targets and build action plans based on your priorities. We also provide tools like ESG policy templates, covering an extensive list of sustainability topics. Again, these can be downloaded from the website. And we provide, again, as Jane mentioned, a carbon calculator, and we can customize this to suit your requirements. And we can accompany that with as much or as little support as you need to produce an emissions report for your business, attain third-party verification, and develop a net zero plan as well. We also provide ESG reporting templates, which we can tailor to your business so you can monitor progress on a monthly basis. And we can also create for you a full annual ESG report so you can demonstrate what you're doing and the impact that you're having to your stakeholders. All of this is available as part of the Business Towards Sustainability program, or you can pick and choose depending on what exactly you're looking for. But we can't do all of this alone, which is why we're working with some really great partners to help us deliver this program. And so I'd just like to take this opportunity to quickly introduce you to Act Now Consulting, B Partners, and the University of Northampton Centre for Sustainable Business Practices, and to ask each of them to tell you very quickly a bit about what kind of support they can offer and how they're working with SBA. So firstly, I just want to go to Alexina Cassidy, who's the founder at Act Now Consulting. Alexina, thank you for joining us today. Just please tell us a bit more about Act Now Consulting and how you're hoping to work with Sustainable Business Alliance.
Hi, thanks, Simon. Hello, everyone. Sustainable businesses is what I'm all about. I work with SMEs on carbon literacy and net zero plans. I'm also a big fan of the B Corp certification, and I'm just the numbers of the B Corp certified in the country is growing exponentially, and I'm really keen to continue that movement and to help businesses become certified. And I also back up Simon on the work he does with the ESG and sustainability strategies. So particularly if you're looking for training or workshops, that's where I help mostly, and I look forward to meeting you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexina. And now I'm going to go to Dr. Ebenezer Laye, who's an Associate Professor of Sustainable Development Law at the University of Northampton and the Chair of the University's Centre for Sustainable Business Practice. Ebenezer, thank you for joining us today. Please just tell us a bit more about the university and your work with CSBP and how you're also going to be working with SBA.
Hi, thanks, Simon, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll be very brief because of the time. So I'm the chair of the Centre for Sustainable Business Practices, as Simon said. And as a research centre, our main purpose is to work with businesses to do that collaboratively, to provide the research, knowledge exchange, support that is needed to help businesses to transition to more sustainable practices. And we have a varied number of colleagues, research colleagues, working in different areas of sustainability, working with a number of businesses, several actually, on a different number of projects. I'm not going to go through all the projects that we have ongoing at the moment, but I'll just say that in relation to our partnership with SBA, it is a partnership that is linked to a number of projects that we're doing at the moment. A lot of you on the call will be familiar with the TANS project. This is an example of an area where we're working with the SBA actively. And obviously TANS as a project is focused on net zero and how we help businesses to drive down their emissions, but also to understand their emissions as well. So in this area, just to give you an example, we are working with SBA to create a bespoke carbon calculator that businesses can use as part of the project. And so going beyond that, one of the things that we want to achieve with TANS is to have a series of legacy partnerships. So these legacy partnerships are going to be partnerships where we bring in a number of organizations that can continue to provide the support that the TANS project has been providing to over the 100 businesses that are involved on that project. And SBA is one of those legacy partners And so as we go forward in our work with the SBA, what we'll be looking to do is, to ensure that organizations such as the SBA are there after projects like the TANS project and some of the other projects that we're working on have finished, and the funding for them has run out, that there are organizations that local businesses can continue to rely on to provide them with that support to help drive down their carbon emissions and to attain net zero, even as we move through the rest of this decade and into the 2030s and into the 2040s. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand back over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer, but I'll let you go to get back to your Chelsea game. But last but not least, we'll go back to Adrian Price, who is the founder and chair at B Partners. Adrian, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a bit about B Partners and how you're hoping to work together with SBA.
Thank you, Simon. Well, B Partners is a coalition of many experts, both local, national, and indeed international, of very specific tactical areas. Formed out of me banging the drum, getting businesses interested in this. And if the businesses say, yes, come and help me, well, I couldn't do it all alone, A, because of time, 2, because of skill set. So it's a coalition of partners, including Ebenezer, Alexina, and Simon, in terms of bespoke services, I think. And maybe this is more, if you use Simon's tools, but perhaps your business grows or you need to get a little bit more. We take the philosophy, though, of making sustainability profitable. Does it pass the CFO test? So we always, every time, will be anchored in the business case, and actually starting to make promises we can make this cost neutral if you work with us over a year or 2. On the next slide, just very quickly, the framework we use is a 7M framework. Again, you can put them all up now. Play all my cards at one go this time, Simon. What's your motive? Mapping is your gap analysis. Materiality we've talked about, so you can see how we overlay and work closely with Simon and Alexina here. What are the means? How do we operationalize this stuff? Key new frontier, certainly from the academic perspective and for businesses, is to measure it. The non-financial as well as the financial key performance indicators. The metrics are really important. How do you manage this? How do you manage across departments? And of course, the final, how do you monitor and report on it? So we can work with businesses and bring in specific skill sets as and where you might, on your journey, have got a particular challenge with any one of these aspects. So next slide. Next slide, Simon, please. Yep. So again, that concept, making sustainability profitable, and there after that, thank you. Next one, you've got the QR code if anybody would like to find out more. So thank you, Simon, for the platform, and yes, we're in this together.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian. And well, there you have it. Welcome to the Sustainable Business Alliance, and we invite everyone, if you've not already done so, to take our ESG assessment and to join the Alliance for free. And if you'd like to join the Business Towards Sustainability programme, please get in touch via my email address, as it's shown on the screen, and we can put together a bespoke proposal to suit the needs of your business. And please do get in touch if you would like to become an approved support member to help in the delivery of any of our services or promote your own tools and support. We're here to join the dots. And the dots we can join, and the more dots we can join, the faster we can travel on the road to sustainability. Now, I know we've overrun by a few minutes, but I do want to sort of give the opportunity for anyone who's still on the call to ask any questions. If you do have to go, of course, please do. But if you do have any questions, then you can, of course, ask them now, or you can put them in the chat or send us an email, and we'll answer them after the session as well. So I'll just pause there to see if there are any questions. No, if not, and I see there are some questions and comments in the chat, so as I said, we will go through those and come back to you. As I said, we have overrun slightly, so apologies for that. And it just leaves me to say really thank you to all our guest speakers today: Mike Berners-Lee, Adrian Price, Jane Winter, Alexina Cassidy, Dr. Ebenezer Laya, and of course all of you for joining us for this launch webinar for the Sustainable Business Alliance. Enjoy your day, have a great weekend, and we hope to see you soon as members of the Sustainable Business Alliance. Thank you all very much, everyone. Goodbye.